Spontaneous salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Are You Saurious? There is no podcast meatier than this. I'm your host, Spencer Long, and I have a very special guest with me today, a very good friend of mine. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Harry Dyer to the podcast. How are you doing, Harry?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I will make a quick note to say that I had to catch myself at the last second since we were just joking before we started about, I was like, I don't want to mess up his name. I want to make sure it's Harry Dyer. And we were joking that you had people in the past call you Dryer instead. And I was like, I almost said it. I almost said it.
It's one of those things where it's like I was saying, if it was even close, but like I give my, I'm pretty sure now after 38 years I know how to spell my own name. So like when I've sent it to people, I've not misspelt it and sent it wrong. And then some people have announced on projects and things and introducing Harry Dyer as, and then I have to contact them privately and say, I didn't want to publicly embarrass you and make the comment, but you might just want to go and change that because otherwise it's going to get confusing.
Yeah. Could we fix that in post, please? Or else I'm going to have to go get a name change. And
yes, I don't want to have to do that. I'm kind of used to my name now, so I don't want to have to go and, So well done for getting it right.
Exactly. And thank you. So, Harry Dyer, the man of many talents, and you've accomplished a lot. And I've had the great privilege of getting to know you through Voicelings. Mm-hmm. And what a lot of us want to know is, those who are watching, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And what exactly is your story?
So I am from Kingston upon Hull in Yorkshire and grew up in a little village called Cottingham. And I think it was one of those stereotypical things when from a young age, I knew that I was destined to be some kind of a performer because I was not the lad on the playground or on the field playing football with all the other lads. I was the one having adventures from like reception all the way up to year 6 and, coming up with fantasies for us to all go on and explore. And I sort of had like a core group of friends who would enter into my world building with me. So I kind of kept my imagination inflamed. And then going to high school, it just kind of became even more apparent that performance was my strong area. I was never going to be, an accountant or a scientist or a solicitor or anything like that. So when it came time to pick my options, as we do over here, you sort of pick the subjects that you want to do for GCSE, and the ones I wanted to focus on were the creative ones. And, parents were sort of like, are you sure you don't want to maybe do business studies as well? Maybe do some of these so you can get a proper job. And like, to me at the time, I was like, but I won't be able to do those jobs. Like, I can do this, I can do performance, but I can't do those things. Like, it's the old thing. You can't be something that you're not, even if you try. And then ended up going to college, just studying acting. And again, I had the conversation of like, are you sure you wouldn't want to do something else as well, just so that you've got the option for, and again, I was like, but there's nothing else I want to do. This is what I want to do. So yeah, went to college, did 2 years there, and then went to drama school in Manchester and did 3 years there. Graduated in 2009, and I've sort of been working in the industry ever since. And I've also been working the 9-to-5 jobs. I was actually shooting a commercial yesterday, an on-camera commercial, which required no voice work whatsoever. It was all done with the face. And we were chatting, and my co-star in the commercial, we were just chatting about stuff, and I was saying about, because she was dressed as a nurse, and I was like, I remember I used to work in the hospital on the wards as a housekeeper, giving out tea and coffee, and then I'd talk about something else. I was like, I used to work for the council in their office in safeguarding, and then she was saying about her mum being a head teacher. I was like, I used to work in a school as a teaching assistant. So whilst doing all of my creative stuff, I had loads and loads of regular jobs, and sort of, in a way, I always say, like, over the years, it was, some people get a job and they stick to it, and they can do it for sometimes decades at a time at the same place. I think I've never really been able to do that, just because of the nature of being an actor. If you sort of boil it down to, an actor comes to a performance and they have a set time that they're doing a show, and you sort of get your little family, your fellow players and the crew and everybody, and that becomes your family for that time. And then the job finishes and you move on to another one. And so for me, I think, like, whenever I was doing my 9-to-5 job, I would be there, and then I would just get the urge that I wanted to move on and do something else. And the adults around you sort of go, well, that's not good, because you're going to have to keep restarting, and there's all this other stuff to think about. But the one thing I have found over the years is that by working in lots of different jobs with lots of different people, you sort of get a worldly experience. And by meeting lots of different characters and hearing lots of different stories, in a way, it makes you a better performer, because you've got so much more to draw from. So, and then over the last sort of 5 years, my voice work has kind of taken center stage. As I've said on many other podcasts, we got to 2020 and things got a bit weird around then. For a lot of us performers, the microphone was our outlet. That was our way of staying in the arts and still auditioning and doing jobs. And then when everything went back to normal, I just sort of stuck with it. I'd met lots of people. I'd made lots of connections. I'd sort of come into lots of voiceover circles, and I sort of thought, I quite like this. Everybody seems really nice and supportive and interested, and everybody's, there for each other. And it was a really nice environment to be in. So I just sort of found myself sticking with it. And, hence eventually led me to the Voicelings and to yourself. And here we are now having a conversation.
Here we are. And it's quite amazing. I do want to touch upon the point that you made, that, and I feel that you can also relate to this as well, Harry, is the voiceover field is not as competitive as one may expect it to be. Because I remember when I had first started myself from a young age, there was all this talk of being an actor is such a very hostile and competitive environment, and everyone's always trying to bring each other down and tear each other apart, and they think they're better than one another. But being a voice actor and getting to work with so many people and be a part of many communities, I've realized that it's actually such a friendly and welcoming field, that everyone's there to support each other and give positive feedback and help each other to be as great as they possibly can be. And I love that.
Yeah. And I think, you'll know yourself, Spencer, that the Voicelings group is very much the epitome of that, because it was designed specifically to be a community for voice artists. And it's a perfect example of, I guess, the community as a whole. Everybody seems to be very positive and supportive. And it's strange. I've been trying to figure this out. I do a lot of thinking. I'm a big thinker. In some cases, it's worked to my advantage. In many, many cases, it's worked to my detriment, because being an overthinker, you can end up torturing yourself. But I think about things a lot, and I've been thinking, why? What is it about the voiceover community? And I don't know whether, I'm still trying to figure it out, but I don't know whether it's because there's a lot of fun involved in it. It's not as stressful, if you like, as working on camera or working on stage. A lot of it is about your voice. So we don't sort of take that, when you're a performer, when you're a stand-up comic or something like that, it is literally you who is the thing, the product, the business, the thing that's presented to people. So that, and also I think because there seems to be a real energy and a real ambitious passion about the voiceover community, mainly with the projects, because a lot of people who have their animation projects or their indie games or stuff like that, they have that spark of the person who's like, I've got this idea that I want to do and I want to make it. I think maybe because it's not all about money, if you like. We're not just churning out a product because it needs to be consumed and then let's move on to next product for people to consume. Like, I think it's still got a lot of heart and soul to it, and maybe that's why it still has that good vibe. It isn't just, the machine churning stuff out, but I've still got some more thinking to do about it, but I don't know whether any of that makes any sense to you at all,
It absolutely does, especially the passion part, because so many people are invigorated and eager to want to jump into these projects and sure the prospect of, oh, I get to voice an animated character. That is so exciting. That's sure may be one of the forefront things, but also just to have the experience and to see what it's like and to play around and explore with all the possibilities that their voice can do that they hadn't thought possible before is very exciting. And they like to continuously challenge themselves to do more and get better and build upon themselves with each new project that they work on. And that's wonderful to see.
Yeah. I think it taps into the part of us as performers where, you want to be somebody else or something else. And with your voice, you've got a lot more scope, because with the voice, the rest is left up to either the imagination or to the show creators, the game creators or whatever. Whereas if you're performing on stage or on camera, apart from things like prosthetics and stuff, like you work with what you've got. Whereas with the voice, there's maybe a little bit more scope to sort of go to other places that normally as an on-camera performer or a stage performer, you might not necessarily be able to do. So I think, again, it taps into that childlike quality that we have of wanting to play pretend. And I think there's more that we can play with, with voice acting.
I sure hope so. We seem to keep finding new things every single day, and I don't want it to stop anytime soon.
Nope. Keep practicing your craft.
So you had mentioned that on your website, that you have written and co-written novels and screenplays in the past. Can you tell us just a little bit more about that? Because that's pretty cool. And what's that experience been like and shaping you as an actor?
I think that I sort of started writing scripts originally. And a lot of it came from the fact that when I sort of started experimenting, if you like, with my creative side, a lot of it was with the video camera. We had the family video camera, and I would make little films. I would talk to the camera. I'd do all kinds of stuff. And then I was sort of, I had a group of friends who we were the filmmaking people, and I would sort of think of like what we could film. And so I started writing the scripts then. And then through sort of college and drama school, I worked on it a bit more. And I didn't sort of have, in the early days, I didn't have any kind of experience or anyone teach me how. I just kind of taught myself. And then through drama school, I was able to study it a bit more professionally, if you like. So it then evolved into sort of wanting to make movies, like proper movies. And I was like, well, maybe like if I went to the cinema, what film would I want to see? And then I would just sort of go away and write it. There was time when I was wanting to write short scenes that I could film to make into a show reel. And one of those scenes was inspired from, I'd worked on a pantomime with a group of actors, and they normally, with a pantomime, they get like a local dance school, and the girls and the boys will come in and be the sort of the chorus, the ensemble, the dancers. And I remember meeting some of these girls at the dance school, and one of them in particular really stood out to me. She was really funny because she was very sort of grown up for her age, and I think she came from quite a sort of well-off family, let's say. Because I remember she had a driver that would come and pick her up, and it's like, I think she might have been only like 8 or 9. I'm like, you're 8 or 9, you've got a driver? I've got to get the train home. Like, what's going on? But then there was this strange thing of like how, even though she seemed sort of old for her age and had all this stuff, like, I never once met her parents, and they were never sort of there or around or anything like that. And I just remember thinking that there's something kind of sad about that. And then I thought of an idea for a scene with a girl who goes to a dance school with an imaginary friend who sort of can be the missing thing in her life. And then a friend of mine who was helping me to film the scenes had sort of said, this is quite good. Why don't we take this, and why don't we try and make this into an actual film, like a short film? So we did. We went away and we developed it. Rather than it just being an isolated scene, we gave it a beginning and a middle and an end. And then that became The Loudest Minds, which was a film that we did back in 2012 and came out in 2013. And it's a real jewel in the crown of my career, if you like. And I mean that in the sense that it's something that I'm really proud of, because it was the first time that my writing, and it wasn't just my writing, because the director helped me to improve it, and we worked on it together. But it was the first time that my work had been sort of taken, and then a producer got involved, and then a crew got involved. And next thing, we're planning on finding locations and casting for it and everything. And it was amazing to see this idea be brought to life. And I acted in the film as well. So you can find the film online. I'll see if I can send you a link afterwards. But I wanted to put it on the Voicelings group as well, because I thought people might enjoy seeing it on there. But it was a really great experience. And it was one of those things where you sort of, again, it taps into that thing of thinking anything's possible if you put your mind to it. Like, and also if you meet good people, you know, you can't work in a creative bubble. It's important to work with people, to collaborate, to make connections. Because again, you can help each other, you know? And then in terms of the novels, I was talking to somebody about this the other day. I was like, I have written 2 books, but as of yet, they've not been published because I've got to tidy them up and find a literary agent who would like to represent me. I do have one in mind. And yeah, again, I was sort of thinking, what would be fun to see adapted to a TV series or to a film? That was the starting point. Rather selfishly, I was like, if I wrote a book that could be adapted, in fact, no, I tell you what it was. I wanted to write a TV series and then I could be in it. And I'd gone for a drink and a catch up with one of my vocal tutors from drama school, Mark Langley. He's fantastic when it comes to voice stuff. He is just like a voice scientist. It's brilliant. I can still, even after all these years now, I can drop him a message on Facebook and say, Mark, I'm having a bit of difficulty with this. Could you help me? And he'll come back with almost sort of like a breakdown of how to, this is, if you want to do this accent, this is the things you need to do. These are the ways that he's really good. But we met up, had a coffee, and I was telling him about it. And he was the one who said, maybe you could write it as a novel, because so many things start off as novels and then get adapted. He's like, look at the Harry Potter books and how they've been adapted into cinema, and now they're being adapted into a TV series. So I was like, maybe I could do that. And it was kind of a personal challenge for me because I'm dyslexic, and reading and writing has always been difficult for me, reading in particular. So I thought, again, I'm sort of faced with this challenge of, you know, can a dyslexic fella write a book? You know, can he sit down and write a book? And
yes, he can.
Yes, he certainly can.
Absolutely
you know,
can.
It took a while. It did take quite a few years. And I ended up, I think I started it in 2012, and then I finished it in 2018. And it was very long, the first draft of this book. It was a pirate book, because I was a massive fan of, and still am, a massive fan of One Piece, and also like the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. But I was also a fan of like the Sinbad movies and Jason and the Argonauts and things like that. The old, I like to say, like the old stop motion movies where it was normally like somebody going off on an adventure to an island somewhere with giant creatures and cyclops and stuff like that. So I was like, I'd love to write just a fun adventure like that. So yeah, so I sat down and wrote this pirate book, and I need to edit it down quite considerably because at the moment it's far too big. You know, my thing was like, I'll just keep writing. Eventually it'll finish. And it did. Like after like 1,000 and like, I think it was like 1,174 pages the book was. And that was the first one. And I was like,
oh my God,
going to need to shave some stuff out of this. And then the other one was based off the sort of, I say like the classic fish out of water, you know, the sort of the regular person who goes into a fantastical world like Alice in Wonderland or The Wizard of Oz or something like that. And it was a book, or a story rather, dealing with the stages of grief when we lose somebody. Because I lost quite a few people when I was very young, and at the time it was a very kind of confusing thing, and even to this day, like it's still stuck with me. And again, like I said, I'm a deep thinker and I think about these things a lot, and I find it fascinating. You know, it's like the things that affect us as children can carry on with us into our adult years. And like I say, I'm 38 now, nearly 39, and you know, I still struggle with loss in ways that other people might not do, but because of my experiences, it makes me more sensitive to things. Another example would be like, so my dad had a hoarding issue. And, you know, if you've ever seen those programs like, where there's people who hoard and their house is just full of junk and stuff like that.
I have. My family has watched a couple of those now and again. So I am familiar with the show.
I was going to say, you don't have any hoarders in your family, do you?
No, I don't.
I thought you were going to say that.
No. Like my mom keeps everyone in check. That's for sure. She always like, make sure you get rid of what you don't need. And we're like, okay.
Yeah. Again, you normally have one of those in every family. It's like, if it's not nailed down, it's going in the bin.
Exactly.
But with my dad lost his dad, so my grandfather, my biological grandfather, in a car accident when he was like 6 years old. And turns out that people who have lost people unexpectedly or in accidents tend to become hoarders because of this psychological need to hold on to stuff and to not let stuff go. So that kind of thing really interests me. And again, I thought about children who maybe lose grandparents or parents or siblings, you know, anything like that. And again, I was sort of like taking that concept and trying to turn that into a fantastical adventure somehow, but it kind of worked. And the funny thing was that I plotted out the whole story whilst I worked at the Amazon warehouse. Back in the day, I'd sort of had this idea, and I don't know if you've ever done any sort of writing yourself or creative projects or anything like that, but you tend to find that sometimes over years, like little ideas will appear and they'll float around, and then suddenly one day they'll kind of come together, and then poof, it all makes sense. And that's what happened to me as I was walking around the Amazon warehouse. I had a very boring job that day. I was on mask duty. So it was my job to walk around the warehouse and make sure that everybody was wearing their masks properly.
But that sounds like a perfect time to get hit with the inspiration bomb, to be like, oh, that's it. I know exactly how I'm going to write this.
I remember walking the whole warehouse from like round the floor, then down, and then the next floor. And I had a clipboard with me because they wanted me to note down the names and numbers of the people that were not wearing their masks. But I was using it to write down ideas for this children's book. So as I was walking, like I was coming up with the ideas and jotting them down. And I remember by the end of the day, I walked for the whole day. So I got my steps in. But yeah, and then by the end of the day, I think I had like 3 pages, and I was just like, there's the book. And then I had to sit down and start writing it. And it's a difficult thing, like, to just sort of put a bow on this writing talk. But like, as a writer, you've really got to like be able to get from mind to paper. And my problem is, and I think part of this again is the dyslexia thing, is like the translation that happens between here and there. Sometimes things can get lost, and sometimes I can't always make sense of what I want to say. So I tend to just write as much as possible. And then later on, it's sort of like, I don't know, it's like piling up a huge mountain of clay and like, okay, I'll just take it all for now, because then I know at least later I can shave it down and make a statue out of it. So yeah, and I think the other good thing about writing is that it kind of teaches you to pay attention to the way people talk and the way that people act, and you become more observant, and that can then help you as an actor, whether you're doing voice or on screen. You know, like you've got to be, I always say, to be a good voice actor, a good actor at all, you've got to be a good listener, and be able to hear people. In this modern world that we live in, that's very loud and very boisterous and everything's moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I always say, you know, it wouldn't hurt for people to kind of re-engage with the ability to listen again. I think it would be very beneficial if we did more listening to each other. But again, that's just one of my many opinions. But
I'm actually glad that you had brought that up, because I had talked about something similar last night, and it makes me feel like I'm not the only person who's taken a notice of that. I had talked the other day about kindness, and that I've been seeing such a lack of kindness, where people blow past one another. People view each other as disposable. They could care less. They don't give back. They don't show empathy, compassion. And it's very upsetting to me as of late. But what people really need, and what is appreciated now more than ever, is to be heard. For people to take notice of you, to acknowledge your presence, and to appreciate what you have to offer, rather than just, what's that over there? Because kindness goes a long way, and listening is one of the many ways that we can show each other kindness.
Yeah, and I completely on board with that one. I'm a huge advocate for kindness, because it's something that doesn't cost anything, and it can, even in its smallest dosage, can make a world of difference to people. Just giving them the time of day, giving them an ear, you know? So I think it's a very it's a very important thing. And yeah, maybe it's because of our sort of fast-paced world that we live in, and everything is so consumable now, and people are consumable too. And we're connected with so many people, whereas, back in my day, you were connected with the people on your street and the people around the corner and the people at school. So you had relationships that you invested in, and you got to know people, and you grew with people. And now we connect with people on a daily basis that we may never meet, and we connect with hundreds of people. And I don't know, maybe that kind of the magic loses its magic. It's, and that's why I enjoy connecting with people. I actually do enjoy connecting with people. And again, through the voicelings, I love meeting people, chatting with them. I love to sort of, drop a comment here and there and be supportive and stuff. But I also do like to reach out and chat with people. And I'm one of these people where I'll send voice notes to people because I actually enjoy talking, rather than sort of screens of text back and forth. I like sending voice notes because I like people to actually hear it coming from me. And sometimes when you're talking out loud, you can sort of like this, you can go off on tangents and you can think of stuff. Whereas when you're typing, it's very sort of concentrated, and, you're like, okay, you can go back and edit and change stuff. Whereas I kind of like stuff to just come naturally, unedited.
not to mention how text is so easily, it could be misconstrued. You could send something with one intention, but the receiver could be like, I'm so upset by this. And it's like, that's not what I meant. I meant it this way. But that's why our voices are more powerful than text on a screen.
The voice is a very powerful thing, Spencer.
Yes, they are. They are indeed. So I wanted to go back to Loudest Minds for a quick second, solely because this is a big deal. In 2014, you had actually won an award at the Thurrock Film Festival for Best Actor for The Loudest Minds, which, again, you had also wrote. What was that experience like for you? And did you feel that writing the story helped you embody your character easier? Such as, since you wrote it yourself and it came from your mind, you were more easily able to find your character and help bring the story to life to an audience?
It certainly did help at the beginning, yeah. But at the same time, it was really interesting when, again, other people come on board the project and other people bring their ideas. The director who I worked with was really good at sort of seeing stuff. Because again, like when you are the writer and you're in it, you almost have tunnel vision, and it's not like it's not something that you consciously do. It's the same as when you write a book or a script. You are writing it through your eyes, your vision. And sometimes it just takes someone from the outside to look at it and sort of go, have you thought about this? And you sort of go, no, I hadn't actually. How did I not see that? But it's because you are seeing it through your eyes. And again, like with any form of art, when people look at a painting, they see different things. And, the director was really good at being able to sort of, if we were performing the scene, myself and Charlie, who were in the film together, the director would come, and I always say that a good director is someone who doesn't actually need to tell you what to do. He helps you to figure it out yourself. He or she helps you to figure it out yourself. And I remember he would come and like say something and be like, we'll do the scene again, but I just want you to think about this. I want you to think about the fact that this character, I remember specifically one of the things was like, I just want you to think that this imaginary person has had many friends, many children have seen him over the years, a bit like in Drop Dead Fred. Like, he doesn't just have one child, he's gone from lots of different children. And as the years have gone by and they've grown up and they've stopped seeing him, I just want you to think about that when you do the scene again. Okay, let's go for another one. And, you know, it just helped. It helped me a lot, because I think if I'd have just done it the way that I'd seen it, then I wouldn't have got as good a performance out of it as I did. And I think that when you can sort of work on your own projects, it can be really useful in the sense of, like, you know what you are capable of, or you know what you can do well. And I know that Tara's mentioned this a few times. It's like, if the work's not there, then make the work. And if you make the work, then you can make something that's suited to you. So that sort of, you know, that was a good thing to help me at the beginning. Because I was like, well, I definitely know I can play this kind of larger than life imaginary character who's kind of a bit cartoony and a bit clowny. But then through the director, say the producer, even the other actor, Charlie, like, by working with somebody else, they can sometimes help you to see things that, again, on your own, you might not have thought about or you might not have seen. And suddenly it's like, brilliant. Let's try it like this. You know, you have to make choices and try stuff out and see if it works and see if it doesn't. And yeah, so when it came time to go for the awards, and again, it was like, right, we're going to enter the film into the festival circuit now. And when it got nominated for stuff, you're like, oh my goodness. And to actually win, again, it was just it wasn't so much the winning of the award, but it was sort of like thinking, this story is, and the performances have resonated enough with people that they think it's deserving of this accolade. So you as an actor and as a storyteller, you think, well, I've done something good here. You know, I've done something, and that's what you want to do. You want your story to connect with people. You can sort of hold it up and to the naysayers or the doubters over the year who might not have, you know, seen any worth in what you're doing as a performer, or may have sort of gone, okay, well, go off and be an actor then, go and struggle and stuff like that. You can hold it up and say, well, that's something that I've achieved, you know? So it was a really good feeling. And the funny thing is that now, through my visa application process that I'm working on, that's come in useful, because to have those sorts of accolades actually helps to strengthen your case. So, you know, at the time when I won it, I didn't think, well, one day this might open doors for me to, you know, cross borders. But like, that was a nice little added extra for winning an award. Because again, like I always say that, you know, people can win awards all the time. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're better than the next person. But I think that, you know, for myself and for my own journey as a performer, it was definitely a nice thing. And to know that it was all off, you know, my own idea as well, and that we'd made it from scratch ourselves and it was being recognized was, you know, even greater. It's great to win an award as an actor, but to win it for something that you have created is, you know, makes you feel that little bit extra proud, you know? Absolutely.
And seriously, congratulations to you for winning that award. That's tremendous.
Thank you very much.
What do you, as an actor and a writer, think makes or breaks a good performance or a script? And what are some common mistakes that you see some creators make, rookie or veteran?
I think that the good performers are the ones who are completely, sounds cheesy to say, but the ones who are fearless, the ones who just don't get in their own way or let anything else get in their way. I think that they have to be very honest, open, vulnerable. And again, it's like we can get in our own heads when we sort of think about how our performances are going to be received, or like how people are going to take it. And you might start sort of altering things or maybe holding back on certain things. I think you've just got to go in there and don't think about what anyone else is going to think. Obviously make sure that you're sticking to the script and that it makes sense. You're not just going in there and being crazy. But you've got to be really fearless. And yeah, some of the best actors are those who, well, for me anyway, are the ones who can just have that vulnerability to them. I think as well, I love actors who are kind of chameleonic, the ones who can do lots of different things. There are some actors who are very good at doing one thing or a couple of things, and some of them make very successful careers off it. I love actors who can sort of push themselves into different areas, who can come outside the comfort zone. I think that's really important. You have to be able to get out of that comfort zone. Same with writing. I think with writing, there is the old thing people say, write what you know. And it's like, sometimes, yeah, I get it, but like, it's not always the best advice, because then people go, so I should just write about my life and nothing else. Like, I don't think anybody knows what it's like to be a pirate. I don't think people know what it's like to be a wizard. People don't know what it's like to be, a space adventurer, or a leprechaun or anything like that. So when people say, write what you know, I always say, well, just expand on that a little bit more. And I think it's, if you can write something that you get, and people kind of go, but is that not limiting you if you're just writing what you get? And it's like, but you're giving authenticity to your voice, if you like. If you're trying to write in the style of somebody else, or you're trying to write to please this audience or that audience, again, it goes back to something I said already, which is like, write or perform something that you would like to see. And I think that the problem that you find with actors and scripts and stuff is that when you're trying to be something that you're not, or do something that is not you, then it comes through. Being somebody that you're not, like, obviously when you're acting, we are playing something that we're not, we're playing these characters who are not us. But you have your own unique flavor, your own unique flair, and that has to be there in your performances. When you're, it's kind of like, if you had an actor who was your favorite actor of all time, and then you watch them in interviews or you watch them in films, and you just like, I'm just going to do what they're doing. Like, I'm going to talk like they talk. I'm going to have the mannerisms like they do. In fact, I remember knowing a couple of people like this who, whenever it was sort of like a comedian that was very popular at the time, and they would talk like him and act like him and do everything in the style of him. And again, there's just something about it that you kind of go, it doesn't feel authentic. Like, it feels like you're putting on a show. It's not you coming through here, So I think when people do that, when they're trying to do or be something that they think they should be, rather than, you know, just being yourself. And it almost sounds trivial to say, like, just be yourself, man, just be yourself. But it really does matter, because you are unique, and that's what you have to let shine through. And I think with scripts and books and stuff, and I've seen a lot of this with scripts, and it's a problem that I have, because I've had to really learn to stay in my lane. Because if I get a script and I'm reading it and I'm like, oh gosh, this is just, there's too much talking, like, and then I get this thing where I'm like, could I just like try rewriting a couple of these bits? And like, sometimes people, you know, they don't take kindly to it. And that as a writer, like, there is the old saying of, you have to learn to kill your babies. And like, that is something that I've had to learn. Like, I've had to accept that if somebody's reading something that I've written and they go, don't get this, get rid of it, it makes no sense, don't like it, you know, initially as a younger writer or a fresher writer, you go, but I can't do that. It's like, it's so important to me. It's like, but remember, it isn't, you've got to do what's best for the story, not what's best for you. Like, I even remember once seeing somebody, this was when I was at college, and we were doing a project where we were devising a show, from a book. So we got a book, and then our task was we had to then devise a show based off this very short novella. And a few of us were writing scenes to put into the play, and it was a collaborative process. And I'd wrote a few scenes, again, as a young writer. And I remember them, like the drama teacher saying to me, like, yeah, we're going to have to get rid of this bit and get rid of that bit. And even at the time, I was like, okay, that's fine. And there was another lad who had wrote something, and they just lightly suggested that maybe they could cut some of the stuff out. And he was like, I can't do that. It's woven into me. And if you tell me to get rid of it, then it's like unpicking a weave. I can't do it. I can't do it. And he threw his papers up in the air, and they were like, okay, well, maybe we can, because they just didn't want to cause a scene. But again, it's like, you can't be precious with stuff like that. And I think that having worked on films in the past where the script, I've read it and I'm just like, people don't talk like this. You know, like, that's the other thing. That's another big red flag in scripts, is like, if you read something out loud and you're like, do you know anybody who talks like this or who acts like, again, it comes back to being a listener, being able to listen to people, you know. Now, that's not to be mistaken with, when you write a script, just listen to a real conversation and then just copy that and put that into a film, because that's not interesting. Like, a slice of life is not interesting. There has to be conflict. There has to be drama. There has to be something going on. But there is the fine line between just, you know, people, script and dialogue that's just like somebody telling us what, like, again, it's obvious, but just show, don't tell. Like, don't have characters dropping exposition and having to explain to everybody, you know? I think that's a big thing, is like, just in general, it would be really good if cinema and TV and everything could maybe go back to treating people like they're not stupid, you know? Trusting the audience that they do have brains. And I know that there are lots of, you know, there are lots of people who watch TV who maybe not as sharp as others and who maybe do need things spoon-fed to them. But on the whole, like, trust that people are intelligent enough to understand what's going on and to work stuff out for themselves. Because that, as an audience member, makes it more interesting and exciting. Like, if you can figure something out on your own and then it turns out that it's true later, you're like, oh, and it makes it even more enjoyable. If you have to have everything spelled out to you so you know exactly what's going on, like, you just end up tuning out from it. But so yeah, but I would always want to, like, if I had a big chunk of dialogue in a film or something like that, and I'm just like, could I maybe try saying it a bit differently? And, sometimes it can just be as simple as putting a bit of colloquialism behind it or something like that, that just makes it feel like it's been spoken by a human being and not typed out on a script. So I think in both cases, for performers, for writers, bring it back to that point. Listen to people. See how people really talk and really interact. That's the best maker and the best breaker of a performance and of a script. So I hope that answers that question.
It certainly does. You phrased it very well. I'm also very glad that you touched upon, because that too has been bugging me for the longest time. And I think certainly many TV shows and film have played the game of, let me just spoon feed you, jingle, jingle, here's the keys. And it's like, okay, we get it. We don't need it constantly reminded, like, don't forget this is what's going on. It's like, we get it. I remember in particular, there was a video game that I had played some years back, and it was very story heavy. It was about three major empires that were conflict. There was conflict going on, and they were fighting against each other. And you, as the protagonist of this game, had the choice to ally with one of these three empires and build a relationship with the members of those alliances and get to know them better and see them as people. And it was such a cool experience. But due to a lot of time conflicts and budgeting, there were a lot of times where certain routes would either slash scenes entirely. They wouldn't animate them. They wouldn't even, they'd take the short way out, so far as to even at the most egregious time where one character came in saying, oh, by the way, this the leader of one of the other major empires died off screen. No big deal. It's like, what? What happened? And if there were other really bad instances, but that was one of the worst ones where it's just like, oh, by the way, we're going to tell you of something that happened off screen, and man, you should have been there. And it's like, so then show us. It makes it more satisfying. And I am totally with you, Harry, that there really needs to be some semblance of writers and directors that say, listen, our audience isn't stupid. Let's not treat them like children. Let's make this interesting and make them engage and want to figure things out for themselves and get invested, rather than take shortcuts and map everything out and they just follow the stepping stones to get to the finish line, because it's not fun.
No,
it's infuriating.
That's the key word there. Fun and enjoyable. That's what an experience of any performance, whether it's the theater, whether it's TV, if it's streaming, if it's a movie or a game, we have to enjoy it. We have to have fun doing it. If we're just there, just like, I don't find it fun to eat necessarily. Like, I enjoy food. And being with people can be a fun experience, but like, to eat is not fun. It's a necessity in order to stay alive. And when art is made to be consumed like that, then it's not enjoyable anymore, So yeah, I think you definitely hit on that there. Fun. It has to be fun. Has to be enjoyable. You can't just be, again, going through the motions, ticking certain boxes and like, right, that'll do, again, mass produced. I think also it would be good, if, and again, when I filmed this commercial the other day, I was talking to the crew about it, because for this commercial, the costume department, the lady who was doing the costumes had brought all these clothes, and there was loads of vintage stuff. And she was saying about the fact that she wanted people to be in these vintage clothes, but the client had said, no, just put them in normal stuff, put them in, nice, clean, fashionable. And again, it's like people come with creative ideas, but then the people at the top now seem to have developed a monopoly over the creative process. So say, for argument's sake, like I always say, commercials from like the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, there are so many memorable commercials and ones that you can quote. They're quotable. They've become almost pop culture, some of these commercials. And it was back when the creative people were just allowed to do their jobs, where they didn't have, like, again, imagine if you were making an advert for Cadbury and there would be people who would come in and come up with a fun idea and go off and do it. And then it would become super memorable and stick in people's minds and your product would do well. But now for some reason, the people at Cadbury will come along and they'll be like, let me give you some script revisions. Let me tell you how to shoot the scene. Let me tell you what the characters should be wearing. They don't know about costume. They don't know about script writing. They don't know about what makes a good commercial. But because they're the people with the money, they're the ones that are having the last say. And for me, I'm just like, I wouldn't go into your boardroom and start telling you how to start budgeting for the year ahead or how to spend your money. So don't tell the creative people how to do their job, just allow people to be creative. Creatives, or creativity for creatives. There's the hashtag. Creativity for the creatives. Like, it should just be that.
We're gonna have to start a chain of that. Creativity for creatives.
Yeah, we could maybe find something a bit more snappy than that. That's just right off the top of my head, on the top of my creative ability to come up with that. But
perhaps just as we're wrapping up, it'll hit us like an inspiration bomb. I'm like, that's the one. So I'm holding out for something to come to us by the end of our episode. I too am of that same mindset that sure, people look nowadays, and especially younger generations look at I come from a household that was around in the 70s, the 80s, so I've had a lot of time to appreciate that culture, that time period, the culture, the fashion, and what things were like. And it's such a cool thing to me to look back and see how things have changed over the years. But nowadays, a lot of younger generations may look at those kinds of commercials and think, what? That's so weird and cringy, and that's terrible. And it's like, but it's fun. Everything nowadays seems to be so commercialized and corporate and colorless and bland. And here's our product. Please buy it.
Did you see
the phone number down below? It's like Bueller. It's.
Did you see
Snooze Best?
Did you see the footage of the McDonald's CEO eating the burger?
Yes, I have.
What did he say? I love this product. Yeah, I was just like,
because nothing says delicious and mouthwatering like buying a product. Why would I want to buy a burger when I could buy a product? Yummy.
And I will say as well, from my experience in food commercials, when you do a food commercial, you have to eat food in a specific way. So, like, if you eat a cheeseburger normally you would get a cheeseburger, you just pick it up, just bite into it, get stuck into that thing. But in a commercial, you have to hold it up like this, and then you have to, again, not natural. That's not how people eat. But for a commercial, we're seeing the way he eats that burger. It's like someone said to him, "You need to do a commercial eat of that burger."
I love the comments that are like, "Did he take a bite?" It's
yeah, he definitely didn't. He definitely didn't. Or if he did, it would be like crusty burger. It's like, and cut.
Yeah, exactly.
I almost swallowed some of the juice. Yeah. But yeah, like you said then, the corporate side of it, like, I think that the corporate, corporate has its place for sure. But putting corporate in the arts is like putting concrete on a painting. Like, that's what it is. It's taking a beautiful canvas with, a marvelous painted image and then just putting concrete over it and smoothing it down. That's what that is. And I think that hopefully, again, going back to the voiceover community and the creators, the indie creators, the people coming up, all have that artistic spark that has not been corrupted. And like, that's the thing that we need more of. We need more people with ideas and being able to make them, and I guess in the indie world, there aren't as many gatekeepers. So you're more free to tell your stories and bring them to life. You're not having to, obviously when you get into the big leagues, it can get a little bit more difficult, but I think that's why it's important to have those indie spaces so that people can tell their stories completely unbastardized,
Absolutely.
I don't get to use that word very often, but when I do, it means something.
Yes, absolutely. And there's such an appreciation for the indie scene, and I'm loving that it's coming into the spotlight a lot more, and I hope that it continues to go so from there, because it's been proving that indie stuff is successful, that people want originality, they want creativity, they want something different, and I truly hope that we can get more of that going forward, because from the stuff that I've seen from independent companies and creators so far, I've been having such a grand old time, to be quite honest. This has been the best.
Support artists and support creativity.
Yes, sir. I've heard that you are a ventriloquist, and we did talk about this just before we started this episode. Unfortunately, you did let me know that your co-star is, he's off in the green room and he cannot join us at this time. He's getting ready for his next performance.
Yeah, he's on another interview.
But I was so blown away to learn that about you, Harry. And how long have you been doing that? And what's that been like? How did you fall into that field too?
Well, ventriloquism just kind of fell into my lap, and I had to teach myself how to do it, you see. And it actually comes from, I was talking to someone about this the other day, and a lot of people learn how to do ventriloquism from their parents. Yes? So, Spencer, you might have had this when you were a child. If you were being naughty or doing something that you shouldn't have been doing, you might have had your mom or your dad come up to you and do one of these, go, "Stop what you're doing, you're embarrassing me, you're gonna be in trouble when we get home, I'm not gonna tell you again, stop what you're doing."
You little rascal. Stop.
Oh, you little rascal, I'm gonna get you.
We're gonna have a word.
Yeah,
we're gonna have a word when we get home.
Don't you embarrass me in front of everybody, otherwise you're gonna think it.
So that's where a lot of people experience ventriloquism for the first time, but yeah, I always say when I was 5 years old, I had a birthday party with a magician, and as part of his routine, he brought a ventriloquist dummy out, and many of the children, like there were a lot of children who were a bit scared, but actually, I don't think people are as scared of ventriloquist dummies as they make out to be. Because I just remember everybody being really into it, including myself. And I just remember being captivated by this puppet. And I loved that, like, as a child, I loved puppets, and I loved stop motion and claymation. Anything with that, I was just like, oh, you've sold me. You've got me. And I remember I had my own little Punch and Judy puppet theatre that one of my grandma's friends made for me. Like he actually made it. He made it and he painted it, and and I got that as a present. And I had a bag of the Punch and Judy puppets, and it wasn't until I was at high school that I ended up getting a ventriloquist dummy, and I would just sit and practice. And I remember getting a couple of books on ventriloquism, and there was a comedian called Ken Dodd, who was a brilliant British comedian, and he had his little puppets, the Diddy Men. And I just remember seeing him do one of his. I don't know if you've ever had these in the States, but every now and again on TV they would have an audience with, and it would be like an audience with this famous person. It might be with a musician or a comedian, and it would normally be them on stage doing whatever they do, and the audience tended to be full of celebrities. And it was a popular thing here. They still do it every now and again, but like, yeah, you'd have an audience with. So it was an audience with Ken Dodd, and he had his little Diddy Man puppet, and it just made me laugh how he was sort of being very rude and very blue. And I remember thinking it's great because you can sort of, a ventriloquist dummy can be a great funnel for comedy that a comedian might not necessarily be able to get away with, but with a puppet, they can get away with a heck of a lot more than a stand-up comic can be.
Everyone just looks at them like, "Oh, what a silly little guy! That's the funniest thing I've ever heard."
They are a fantastic tool, and so when I remember taking the dummy to school, and for our Christmas assembly where people could go up and perform, I went up with my ventriloquist dummy and I did a comedy routine where I was doing impressions of the teachers, but it was the puppet that was doing it and not me. So I'd say, "Oh, who are you going to do next?" And it'd say,
"I'm going to do Mr. Wilkinson now."
And then would start doing, "Oh, your GCSEs are coming up and you're going to be in big trouble if you don't get your grades." And all the, honestly, it was like, I just felt like a rock star. I can
imagine it. The whole room must have exploded with applause.
It was like, and especially because like a lot of the teachers I did were the ones that, you know, maybe didn't have the best sense of humor, and I just went straight in there and lampooned them, and it was kind of like doing a roast. But again, nobody's gonna have a go at the puppet, so I'm just stood there like this, and you know, and I was a hero for a lot of the people. They were like, because then they'd be like, "Oh, do the impression of it," and like, so I felt like I'd been accepted by my peers when I was able to do that. And again, it was like, I think a lot of the teachers at the time must have thought, well, you know, this lad's going to be a performer of some kind when he leaves this school. You know, he's not going to be a police officer, you know, pulling people up saying, "You're going too fast."
God, I hope not. Uh-oh, here comes the cop with the ventriloquist dummy.
Yeah,
Did you know how fast you were going?
Yeah. Step aside, I'm going to drive.
I'll show you how it's done, you simpleton.
But yeah, I'd love to do more of my puppetry again, but yeah, with voiceover, it doesn't really matter if you're a ventriloquist and you've been a voiceover. Although famously there was, and I can't remember the name, but there was many years ago a ventriloquist who was a ventriloquist on the radio, and then when he went on live TV to do it, he couldn't actually do it, and that was a little bit cringy. But
oh dear.
I'm sure you'd be able to find it on YouTube, but yeah, he can't do it, and he keeps trying to like put a cigar in his mouth to cover it up, and even the host and the audience are laughing at the fact that it's like, "We can see your lips moving."
Are you sure this guy's a ventriloquist?
Yeah, it's like someone going on the radio as a tap dancer, you know. Just
yeah, exactly.
You could just go. There you go. I'm tap dancing here. Look. Oh.
Instead, they put it on their hands and they move their hands. And it's like, no. Put them on your feet and do it. It's like, I can only do it with my hands. That's how I learned.
That's just tap dancing, isn't it?
See, we ran into a bit of a hiccup. Oh, but that's wonderful. And that's a great tool to have in your kit as well. Just to be like, oh, by the way, I'm a ventriloquist, because I'm sure anytime you bring that up, someone's like, oh, you are not. I've got to see that.
It can be a very useful thing to have on your actor's CV, especially for casting, because if a casting comes up needing a ventriloquist, there's very few of us left, so it puts you in a much smaller talent pool, so it might be a bit easier to book that gig.
And it opens doors from there, no doubt.
Absolutely.
What are some of your biggest inspirations as a voice actor, and do you have a dream role that you'd one day like to have?
I really enjoy, as a child and even now, I enjoyed the classic Disney animated movies. Not just because they were fun and fantastical, but I think if you actually go back and watch them and listen to them, there are some really great performances, some really real performances in there. Like, off the top of my head, like The Little Mermaid, when you actually listen to King Triton giving his performance and, the real emotion that's behind it. And, you listen to Ariel and Eric and all the characters, like you could take that, and if you'd not seen it as animated, there'd be a few things that might give it away, but it sounds like, real people, again, people being real. They're not going, I'm going to be this character now, they're genuine. And I loved Aladdin growing up. Robin Williams' Genie was one of the big things.
Iconic.
It made me want to be not just a voice actor, but an actor, like just to be able to do that. I loved the old Warner Brothers cartoons as well, the Looney Tunes. And again, you listen to some of them, it's very much like the old Mel Blanc ones are, again, they're not people just being silly cartoony. It's, there are performances that you might get from the Marx Brothers or from the Three Stooges or W.C. Fields or like any of those old school black and white comics, So I love those things. I think those were the things that made me want to do the cartoon voices as a start. But then, like I say, when you watch the Disney films, I love in Beauty and the Beast, like the Beast's lines. I love those. I love the narration at the beginning of the film. I remember learning that and doing it years later and stuff like that. So, I think that they were what really lit the fire for me. And sorry, what was the second part of the question? I got lost in Disney World there.
Yeah, what a better place to be, am I right?
Exactly.
What is a dream role that you hope to one day have in any type of media? You name it.
That was it, yeah. So I've always said I would love to do a character. Like, I would love to do an original character. And I don't know how it would appear. I don't know what it would be, but it's like when I see, people at conventions and stuff like that. And they may, like, everybody's got at least one iconic character that they've done. And I've always said it would be, there were so many characters that meant so much to me and still mean so much to me, even now, even knowing that they're, that they are just a character, but those stories and things resonated. A prime example would be, the voice actor Joshua Seth, who was the voice of Ty in Digimon. I joined Josh's voiceover champions group, and I remember it was one of those things like he became a really good mentor to me, and dare I say, a friend. He was really good, and I remember sending him an email. Not wanting to fanboy, because I try my best not to fanboy now. I try and be, a peer. We're in the same creative field and we're peers. And, I don't want to just treat you like this thing for me to go, you're a human being and you've done a job, and, and I try not to treat people like, demigods. There are people like you and me. But I did write him an email and just said about how not just his character, but the Digimon series at that time in my life was a real anchor. And I think that's what a lot of these characters and stories can be for young people. We go through, every young person goes through difficult times, growing up and becoming a teenager, hitting puberty and going through all of that can be a very confusing time. But I do think, and from having worked in schools as well and seeing, that actually, all young people go through struggles and go through hard times. And sometimes it can just be a character, a series, a game, a film that can just keep you in a good place. And I think that's what, whenever Tara or any of her legends have said, people have come up to me and said, "Oh, you were the voice of my childhood," or your performance in this. Like, I would love to be able to do a character like that, where it would help people to get through the hard times, and to know that, that my voice, my performance could do that for somebody. And again, to me, it's just what I do. It's what I was put here to do. But if what I was put here to do could help improve the lives of other people, and a lot of people say about how sometimes actors can sound very pretentious, like, we're saving the planet through our films and we're saving the world through our acting. It's like, no, you're not. You're acting. Like, you're not saving rainforests. You're not rescuing babies. You're in a film and blah, blah, blah. But to try and be fair, like, I think that what you can do through your artwork is you can connect with people, and, and sometimes it can just be like that little thing. So that is one thing I'd love to do. Also, to give a slightly different answer, like, I would love to take up the mantle of maybe a famous character, but I would really want to be given a blessing beforehand. So, case in point, Bob Bergen, who is in the Voicelings group. He's a really interesting fellow, and I appreciate Bob in the sense that he will just say things as they are, and it's a lot of the time that's really good, because you're getting full, unfiltered Bob, and you can't ask for more than that. But I love when Bob tells the story of, like, him becoming Porky Pig, to be able to take the reins of a really great character like that. But if I were to do that with any character, so, like, off the top of my head, like, Charles Martinet, who stepped down as Super Mario, and now somebody else has taken over the part. Like, I would love to be able, like, if I was to say, I'd love to end up doing the voice of Super Mario, woohoo, let's go. Like, but I would have to get Charles's blessing first before I would do that. So yeah, it would be like it's like in Doctor Who. You know, Doctor Who has been played by many, many people, and every actor who has come to that role has, you know, has had big shoes to fill each time. So yeah, if I were doing that role, if I were doing any role like that, whether it was Mario or the Joker, I've always fancied playing the Joker, both on screen and through voice acting as well. You know, I would want to be respectful of those who came before me. For we, Spencer, stand on the shoulders of giants. And yeah, and especially if it was an iconic role, like I would want to do best for the role, I'd want to do best for my predecessor, and I'd want to do my best for the fans, which some people might say, but aren't you going against what you said earlier about not doing it for other people and doing it for yourself? And like, I would still bring my own Harryness to the role, but I would want to take up the mantle respectfully and faithfully to the character, because these characters, a lot of these characters, even characters like Porky Pig, are our modern day Greek heroes. And they speak to many people, and you want to be faithful to those characters to keep their stories alive. So, Absolutely. I hope that was a good answer to that question.
No, totally. And I will say that I'm also of the mindset where it would be so cool to get a call from a company or a casting agent and be like, hey, so they want you to be the next voice of like SpongeBob SquarePants or Daffy Duck or any character to that caliber. And it'd be like, I would fall over with disbelief to be like, seriously? But at the same time, there is that worry of, you've got to be faithful to the character that was before you, and to how that actor portrayed that character, and pay them homage, and also make it your own and enter a new chapter with them. And to not just satisfy the fans and make them be like, that was a good choice. Or like, I didn't like that. I prefer but to the sense of, I would never ever want to be the next voice of a character and someone say, you were the best ever. I'd be like, no. Everyone who has come before me has done an amazing job, because without them, this character wouldn't be where they are today. So give them credit where credit is due, because they paved the way for this character in their history.
Yep. Respect those that came before. Because like I say, you wouldn't have that job now if it weren't for them. And to go back to Doctor Who, like a good actor playing the part of Doctor Who, if someone said that to them and said, oh, you're the best Doctor Who ever, if they were humble enough, they would mention all of the previous incarnations, for out which or without which they would not be sat down having this interview now, having praise cast upon them. But there is something in the works at the moment that, if it all goes well, hopefully it will be an original character that can, I guess, be my own, if you like. But as is the way with so many of these things, it's all a gamble as to whether it's going to work out or not. And you just hope that you have put your chips down in the right place whenever you do any project. But again, the most important thing coming onto any project, whatever it does, wherever it goes, have fun with it. Absolutely. Have a great experience, and you meet lots of really great creative folks along the way, and you never know where they're going to end up. You never know where you're going to end up. So again, pays to be kind.
More than people may possibly ever know. It pays to be kind. And I do want to quickly piggyback off of that to call attention to a voice acting colleague of mine, Chelsea Krause. She's an incredibly talented voice actress. And she had talked about something recently where she made notice of some students of hers in some of her classes. And she had said, something that I worry about for the next generation of voice actors is I'm seeing a trend where younger actors are too afraid to be too expressive, too colorful, too loud, too boisterous, they feel the need to try and fit in a box in fear of, I don't want to be judged. And that's a terrible thought. And someone could tear me apart for having fun and being who I am. And I'm like, that's terrible to feel that kids nowadays who aspire to do voice acting feel that they need to shield themselves and they shouldn't bring their all to the table every single time, because it's not fun for anybody. And that goes and ties back to your point earlier of, at that point, you're pretending to be someone that you're not, because deep down you are fun and charismatic and outgoing, but you're trying to be someone you're not, and quiet and reserved and
not allowing yourself
passive.
to be vulnerable, not allowing yourself to have that vulnerability. And you need to have that. It goes such a long way, and it almost feels counterintuitive. And I understand that a lot of people, you don't want to be vulnerable. You don't want to be naked. You don't want to be in a position where you could be hurt. But ultimately, it makes for a much more compelling performance, and it makes you more interesting to watch. It's like the old thing of when you do an audition and you think to yourself, that was fantastic. That was the best audition I've ever done. And they're normally the ones that you never hear back from. Whereas when you do those auditions where you sort of go, oof, I think I ballsed that up, or like, oh, why did I do that? Or, oh, I tripped over my feet coming in the door or something. They're normally the ones that get back to you, and I think it's just because when people can see that, when you're vulnerable, you're honest and truthful, and I think that's what people want to see. That's what people enjoy seeing, because they can kind of relate to it, kind of similar to what you were saying earlier when you're like, oh, it's not just me. When we see that in people and we see that in performances, you connect. And yes. I think that if that is the case, that a lot of young people are, wanting to avoid that and wanting to minimize themselves and not have a voice, as it were. I think that's why it's so important to be out there and to put yourself out there and to, just be completely unfiltered. It's far more interesting, and you're more likely to discover things. You're more likely to make interesting choices. And people are going to be more interested and invested in you than in this person who is holding back. And the thing is, when you hold back and you're feeling uncomfortable, the audience can pick up on it, and it's the same, when people feel that, they will, pull away. They don't sort of root for you going, come on, you can do it. Like it's a weird thing. But if I were to give advice to your friends, students there, I would just say to them, like, maybe just take a moment to yourself to just be as loud and as boisterous as whatever, then bring it back into the group and we can all do it together. You don't have to feel self-conscious because we're all going to be up there, and then see how you feel afterwards. Do you feel silly? Do you feel bad about it? Let's do an experiment. Let's do a social experiment, So yeah, I would say always be true. Always be true to who you are.
As the old saying goes, be true to who you are and don't regret it.
Yes,
No,
that's it.
That's so true. And I appreciate you for giving us all a friendly reminder that it's okay to be ourselves, that it's okay to be seen, to be the loudest person in the room, and to take off the armor that we're hiding ourselves with, to not be hurt by society and what we think society wants us to be and how we should act, because everyone else seems to come across that way. But no, everyone should be free to express themselves however they feel is comfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's impossible to try and fit into what society expects, because society is full of so many different people. How are you expected to fit all of those categories? You can't. So just let go of that and just do your thing. Be one of the colours of society rather than trying to be all of the colours mixed together.
I love that. And that's such a fantastic way to wrap up what's been a phenomenal episode. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, as per usual, a round of applause, a tremendous roaring round of applause for Harry. You're the best, my friend. It has been such a great pleasure to chat with you.
It's been a pleasure chatting with you, Spencer. I think this conversation, I think you've brought some good stuff out of me. So you are proof of people bringing the best out of you. So thank you for allowing me this time to talk and to pontificate and to ramble on your podcast.
Of course. And it makes me so happy that you had a great time and you got to play and explore, because that's what this whole podcast is about, to share experiences and learn something new from one another.
Mm-hmm.
And right before we go, where can we all find you across social media? Tell us all the details.
So this is always the one where I've then got to get out my little business card. So I am on Instagram. You can find me there, 𝙤𝙤𝙚 which is HAZERD 87, the year I was born. So Instagram is where I tend to hang out most of the time. I'm also on TikTok. I am over there. Same, 𝙤𝙤𝙚 over on TikTok. On Twitter, which is just _D. And I think on any of my profiles, there is a link to my link tree, so you can sort of go and find all my stuff there. And my website is very simple, nice and simple. It's just harrydyer.co.uk.
And on there, it has all of your fantastic demo reels of all genres on there too. So everyone can go and give those a listen as well.
Yes. And I'm working on, believe it or not, some new ones as we speak. So hopefully there will be even more added there soon. So yes, watch this space.
How exciting. Well, you know what to do, everyone. Go write it all down, do your homework, and go and check out Harry, give him some love and support, and look at all the amazing things that he's done so far, and continue to support him in all the fantabulous things that are to come in the future. And until next time, stay terrific and keep being amazing, my friends. See you later!